Hi, this is Dan, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Grand Forks with the July edition of A Look Back. We are trying once a month to examine one historical weather event from eastern North Dakota or the northwest quarter of Minnesota. Last month we looked at the first tornado photograph in North Dakota. Remember, older versions of A Look Back can be found on our office YouTube page. So this month let's take a closer look at the July 9th, 1995 Hallock tornado. The official record of this tornado can be found in the National Weather Service publication called Storm Data. In Storm Data, the entry says that the tornado touched down about a mile northwest of Hallock just after 7 p.m. It tracked 10 miles south and southeast and lifted east of Kennedy, Minnesota. Historical weather maps can be found on the Daily Weather Map series. However, this archive only contains information from 7 a.m., so there's no information from the other 23 hours in a day. The smaller image on the left shows the 7 a.m. July 9th 500 millibar chart, and for all you weather geeks out there, this chart does show northwest flow aloft. The chart on the right is a surface map from the morning of July 10th. This chart shows that a boundary had moved through northwest Minnesota the previous night and was now located across central Minnesota. Remember, tornadoes often form along boundaries. So let's zoom into northwest Minnesota and look at what was going on about an hour before the Hallock tornado. HUM is Humboldt, Minnesota. BDE is Baudette. PKD is Park Rapids. FAR is Fargo. And RDR is the Grand Forks Air Force Base. It was a warm and muggy day. The values in red are the 6 p.m. temperatures, and the values in green are the associated dew points. The yellow arrows represent the wind direction. 7 p.m. is about when the tornado first touched down. You can see not much has changed from the previous hour. At 8 p.m., the map finally shows the boundary that was also visible on the 7 a.m. July 10th surface map. Ahead of the boundary, the wind direction arrows were from the south, while behind the boundary they were from the northwest. Dew points were still in the lower 70s near this boundary, which is very muggy air. So, what is so interesting about this tornado? Well, the biggest thing was that it was the last day of the Kittson County Fair. There were about 800 people packed into the grandstand ready to watch the demolition derby when an outdoor sirens went off. These people had minutes to find shelter before the tornado hit, and then the tornado ended up destroying the same grandstand and churned up other portions of the fairground, as well as damaging some homes and businesses in town. The fairgrounds were located on the southwest edge of Hallock. In July 1995, both the National Weather Service and the Weather Radar were located in Fargo. This is about 129 miles from Hallock. The lowest elevation the Fargo radar could see was a half a degree. At 129 miles, the radar beam would have been about 14,000 feet above the ground. Tornadoes are a low-level feature, so the Hallock tornado would not have been seen by the Fargo radar. However, the radar would detect a very strong echo. Although not identical, this is what the 1995 Fargo radar monitor would have looked like. It displayed white storm echoes on a black screen. Fairly basic. In July 1995, the Fargo National Weather Service office was manned by a two-person team. One member of this team worked the weather radar. It just so happens that the person who worked the radar during the Hallock tornado recently retired from the National Weather Service. He remembers that deputies spotted the tornado and quickly relayed that information to the National Weather Service. From this information and from what he saw on radar, he issued a warning before the tornado hit the fairgrounds. This is a great example of how we rely on your reports during severe weather, even today with better radar technology. We don't have the needed permissions to show any of the tornado photographs taken that day. However, you can look them up on the internet or even several videos on YouTube. Luckily, there were no deaths from this tornado. It was assigned an F1 rating and caused 8 injuries and a lot of damage. In addition to the Hallock tornado, wind damage also occurred in War Road, and another tornado touched down in a farm field about 5 miles south of War Road. Overall, it was lucky there were no deaths from the Hallock tornado. This is why it's important that people pay attention to the weather and have a plan of action in case severe weather occurs. That concludes this edition of A Look Back. Thanks for listening.